Hey, Latin 3. We have a thing to talk about. It's special verbs. We did actually already talk about this, but there were some people who wanted a follow up. So I promised I'd make a video on it so that you can go back and watch this again. And maybe I'll say some things I didn't say during class, or maybe it'll make more sense, or maybe I'll use better examples. I don't know. But we do need to make sure that we understand special verbs, okay? Now, when I say special verbs, I'm not talking about irregular verbs. I'm not talking about verbs that have some like funky forms. They're regular verbs and they have normal forms, but they have this kind of weird thing about them that's hiding in plain sight in our text that you may not be ready for, and that's what we want to pay attention to. Let me give you an example, okay? I'm talking about something like this. This is clearly in English, right? It says, "Do you trust me?" And probably doesn't look weird. All right, I've got a subject, it's you. I've got a verb, it's trust. I've got a direct object in there, the word me, right? First person pronoun. Here's the thing though. In Latin, this sentence would not have a direct object. Now, some of you are probably going to say, that man's crazy. There's a direct object there. It's me. But look at the sentence in Latin. Credisne me. Now, I still have a subject verb. The subject is implied by the second person ending here, but I still have a subject verb, credisne. That's the do you believe. And then I have me, M-I, right? Now, if it were accusative, that would be M-E. But for some reason, I'm using the dative. Now, I'm not doing that because I'm random. I'm not doing that because I'm wrong. I'm doing that because in Latin, the verb credo credere is one of kind of a big handful, it's still a handful, a minority of verbs, but a big minority of verbs that takes the dative and does not take the accusative, all right? Now, when you translate this, you're still going to translate it like so. You're still going to translate this as, do you trust me? Or you could say, do you believe me? But you might just be curious then, so why are we using a dative if the way we translate it is as a direct object? Well, that's because translation is not always a one-for-one deal. That is the easiest and smartest way for us to translate what is meant, but in the Roman mind, this verb simply doesn't take a direct object. In their mind, this verb is not transitive, not the way we conceive of transitive verbs, right? Which is to say verbs that take direct objects. In the Roman mind, this verb doesn't get one. Because while it might be very simple and clear for us to translate this as do you believe or do you trust, in the Roman mindset, it probably means something more like do you give your trust to? Something that would require an indirect object, all right? Now, I don't know if you really want to conceive of it that way when you're actually translating. It's probably best just to remember the fact that this is a special verb. It takes a dative, not an accusative. You're going to want to put an accusative with it. You're going to want to look for an accusative, but instead, this takes the dative. But like if you're struggling to understand why, it's because in the Roman mind, that is just not a verb that takes a direct object. So we use a dative with it instead. Now, most of the special verbs that are out there are verbs that in fact use the dative. However, that is not all the special verbs there are. Like for instance, here's another one, all right? That sentence, as you can see, says, don't forget me. Again, it's in English, and I've got my verb there. I didn't write subject on here. It's because it's an implied you, right? I've got a command going on. And again, I've got a direct object. It's me. Me, a direct object, good old object form of I, right? Doesn't seem like there should be anything weird about this. But again, in the Roman mindset, this simply does not take a direct object. Instead, it takes a genitive. And again, I've got my noli oblivisci here, which those two words together make a negative imperative. So that's my verbal idea. And then I've got the genitive of the word I in there. That's because, again, in the Roman mindset, forgetting and by extension also remembering, these are just not ideas that take direct objects. Instead, remembering and forgetting takes a genitive. It just necessarily does, because to remember or to forget something is to be mindful of it or to be forgetful of it. And so that's why, even though in English that totally sounds like it would just be a plain old direct object, it isn't a plain old direct object. It was in English, but in the Latin, it's not. Right? And there is one other group of special verbs takes the ablative, right? And again, in English, it's not going to sound like that. There's not going to seem like there should be anything special going on here when you look at a sentence like, I have enjoyed our time together, right? I have subject still, I've got a verb still, and I've got, in English, a direct object, and it's time. Time is the thing enjoyed. So that doesn't seem like there should be anything weird about it. But here's the thing, the verb to enjoy is a special verb, a deponent verb that takes the ablative. So I've got my fructus there, that's the I have enjoyed. And then my quote-unquote object here is tempore. Now, it's not truly a direct object, not in the Roman mindset. But when we translate this into English, that is the word time that we're going to translate as if it's a direct object. And that's really what I'm referring to when I say that these are special verbs that take the dative or the genitive or the ablative. They're all ideas that we're going to translate as if that genitive or dative or ablative is a direct object, even though we know that accusatives are direct objects. All right, so, truly speaking, the me or the me or the tempore, none of those are actually direct objects, but we translate them as if they are because when we convey the exact same idea in English, we do use direct objects for those. But these are verbal ideas that for the Romans simply don't, right? The Romans are conceiving of these verbs in different ways. Therefore, they are special. Now, if this is still bugging you conceptually, I'm sorry. Maybe it'll click on you later. Here's the thing, though. If it doesn't, you can just memorize this rule that fruor, along with 4 other special verbs, takes the ablative. Check on those in your book on page 84, right? You can memorize that, obliviscor, along with 3 other special verbs, takes the genitive. Check on those on page 93. You can memorize that credo credere is a special verb that takes the dative. There is also a list of these on page 93, but, and for anybody who's watching this who doesn't read Ecce Romani, these are Ecce Romani page numbers, book 3. But you can also Google these. If you don't have your book handy, or if you're watching this in the future when you don't have a book, or if you are somebody I don't actually know and you've never seen this book, you can Google these things, and particularly for special verbs that take the dative, that might be helpful because the list of datives in your textbook, guys, it is not comprehensive. It's a portion of those verbs. But that's what's going on conceptually, is that these are verbs that in the Roman mindset are not transitive verbs that take direct objects, even if we're going to translate them in English like we do, okay? So make sure that you pay attention to those. If you are looking up verbs in the dictionary, always be on the lookout for extra information that says plus date or plus gen or plus able, right? They always have those little abbreviations in there near the principal parts, because if you do stumble across one of these, especially if it's one you don't know, the dictionary will tell you. So pay attention to your reference materials, all right? And yeah, there you go. So that's all this was. You've seen 3 examples of sentences that use special verbs. Also 3 examples that could have been from, I don't know, probably like the saddest passage in a novel, about a relationship that didn't work out. I'll try to think of happier examples next time. I know I usually do cats. I didn't do cats today. Sorry, guys. Anyway, but I will see you guys in class soon.